What's up everyone, and welcome to episode number 2 of the China series.
In this episode of the China series, we will be covering Rachel's year in China. So we'll be covering both her teaching and just life outside of teaching in China.
If you are new to our channel, make sure to subscribe and ring that bell so you can be notified when the next episode of the China series comes out.
So with this video, we've been debating on how we want to format this because we're basically summing up a year of Rachel's life in China. And that's a lot of stuff to sum up in one video. What we landed on is doing a Q&A style so we can really sort of pull out some of the things that she probably hasn't thought of in a long time and pull out some of the most fun experiences of her time in China. So Rachel.
Alright, Ben?
What were your first impressions of teaching in China?
Okay, so I had actually arrived in China in October because I had some visa issues, so I actually was starting the class a little bit later in the school year.
Oh, so it already started, okay.
Yeah, so in order to make up for the time, my first class was actually a 3-hour night class. But I kind of was already used to doing that in college myself. My favorite thing to do at St. Ben St. John's was actually do night classes. So teaching it to an extent wasn't necessarily as terrifying as it might sound, just because I had already seen so many examples of that structure on how to actually like keep people engaged and interested for 3 hours.
3 hours. So one of the things that I saw, which was really cool, is it actually sounded like it was not hard to fill that class. Like the class time that they gave you, students were just, they were ready to sign up for a Western teacher.
Shocking to me. I was concerned at first when they said this was going to be my time slot, but in the end, my class filled up in 10 seconds. Can you believe it? 10 seconds. I had over 110 students sign up for my class, and I could only take 26.
It may also be important to give a background to what level these students were at as well. So how many years had most of these students been learning English, and were most of them pretty good at it?
Oh, okay, that's a good question. All of them had some sort of exposure to learning English, but the way that
so they were completely new.
No, but my exposure and my way of teaching was all based around oral English and actually practicing it and trying to help them gain confidence in just trying to speak it, because a lot of their experience was all based around tests and writing and things like that. So a lot of them were pretty good at like grammar structures and things like that, but they were some of them were just nervous to actually speak and try to use it.
Yeah. So one of the most important parts of a language learning class is also learning about that culture, and you kind of talked about that a little bit. Well, what were some of your favorite lessons that you did to kind of both teach them English but also show them that side of like American culture? So like one example I'll give you was like you're bobbing for apples, and I'll let you take it away from there.
Okay, yeah, really I would always try and sort of teach about American holidays. So the first one that I did was Halloween, and that was actually such a great success. So I kind of taught them some of the key terms, so like pumpkin, things like that. But I just wanted to do more fun activities and explain how we celebrate it. I taught them and told them about bobbing for apples, which they hadn't heard of before. So I actually got a whole bucket of water, and everybody got the chance to try and bob for apples together, and it was super fun.
Yeah.
I loved it. People were really engaged with it.
Funny. Let's maybe transition to the differences in the education that you see in the US, and then also like the process in China. What were the biggest differences that you saw?
Okay, so there's a lot. And before I answer this, I want to preface this that I only had one experience with one school in one part of China. Okay, one. Performances are huge. So they constantly perform all the time. So they have dances and singing competitions and lots of group activities to show off, to do skits and like show off their skills.
Yeah, I mean when you're saying like these shows, like these are like big time shows, like
big time shows.
This is not just performing in front of the class, like
no, which they do too, but this is like lights, camera, action, on stage performances that would happen like weekly.
Some pretty spectacular shows.
Dorm life. They are assigned roommates, okay, freshman year, and they have the same roommates until senior year.
Oh, they can't switch?
Nope, they cannot
Wow.
switch. You have the
Hopefully they don't have any drama.
Yeah, and there's 6 of you. 6 of you in one room, and they had bunk beds. So everyone had one bunk bed and then their desk underneath, and then a bunk bed, desk, and that was on both sides. Another big difference between my university that I taught at versus what I was used to in American culture is that the library wasn't really used as a study facility, so people didn't really study there at all, and coffee shops or things like that, or communal study spaces weren't as much of a thing as that we were used to.
Did they just study in their room or something?
Yeah, the most of them would just study in their rooms.
Wow.
And I like never did that in college.
I don't think I could do that. Switching gears a little bit, what were some of your duties as a teacher outside of the classroom in China?
Okay, yeah, so I was responsible for going to something called English Corner. So basically it was just an opportunity on Wednesday nights and Monday nights to meet with whoever wanted to come. And we would stand around in a circle at night and we would just talk about whatever we wanted, whatever they wanted, ask questions, talk about films, talk about different cultural differences.
So no structure, just like...
Nothing, just have a straight conversation. And it would last sometimes for 2 hours. And there could be up to like 40 people there. Sometimes there would be 4 people. It was so loose, but it was so great and people would love it.
And then I also saw that you did some tutoring on the side as well.
Yeah, so I tutored a 7-year-old girl on the side named April. She was a sweetheart and a half. On Tuesdays I would hop in a bus after class and I would go to their house and April would get back from school and we would spend an hour just going over very basics of English because she was just learning. And afterwards, I would stay for dinner.
Oh, that's fun.
So they would cook for me, and we'd all sit. Her and her parents would sit around in the kitchen, and we'd have dinner every week. And it was so lovely and so bizarre because they barely knew any English, and I barely knew any Chinese. Yet we were so determined to try and connect and make it work. And it was so cool because she would cook very local, traditional, classic meals that I wouldn't necessarily order or make for myself.
Force you to try new things.
It really forced me to try new things. So my favorite part actually of tutoring with them was she had made, the mom had made a soup. And so we had soup with different pig intestines, body parts, whatever. Everything was in there, which is very normal. And some rice. And the mom and the little girl were trying to learn English. And so their way of doing it was picking up different parts of the soup and being like, stomach. Stomach. Ah, good. And then she would put it in my bowl. And I'd be like, oh, thank you, and then she'd be like, intestines, yes, intestines, here you go.
Yeah, intestines, but no.
Oh, thank you. I ate it all.
Good for you.
I did it all, but I just remember being like, oh God, there's no way I can pick around these things. So it
Seems
was
like you had a lot of
nice.
little kids come up to you and kind of like you in that trip.
Yes.
You had one very interested kid who, it seemed like he was, wanted to show off his English.
Oh yes, oh he was so sweet. I literally just walked into a tea shop and he was like, oh, I have to show you something. And he went and got his English books and then he opened them up and was just like, started reading to me and started singing to me. And I was like, can I record you? And he was like, yep.
I see this and that and that. I see red. I see
Oh my
blue.
god!
I see you. Now I'm not to follow so. Tea or drink and then bread. Not to be a fat you do. Oh. Do me fast last do. So do.
Yay!
Thank you.
Good job. I loved his enthusiasm and his excitement to finally show off his English skills.
Yeah.
It was fab.
So tell me about some of your favorite experiences of experiencing that Chinese culture with either your students or other people there.
I guess I was kind of blown away with how warm and welcoming. Everybody greeted me instantly. People were giving me gifts, asking if I needed any help, willing to translate menus for me at restaurants. People were inviting me to go on trips immediately. I had one of my co-workers invited me to go explore a small town in Chongqing. I think the first or the second week that I had actually arrived, and so we got a hotel room and went for the weekend and went for a 3-hour drive together, and it was awesome. It was really great. But yeah, I melted in so quickly, and part of that was just because everyone was so welcoming.
It looked like, one of your TA's families really took you in, sort of under their wing.
They really took me in, which I'm still thankful for. I still stay in touch with her. But the first time I got invited to her house, her parents and grandparents and aunts and uncles, we all went out for dinner. They took me around to different tea ceremonies around the area, and they were just so friendly. And again, we had barbecue, and we had dinners, and we learned
amazing looking food.
Oh my gosh, we learned how. Grandma taught me how to make dumplings.
No, that was fun.
That was really fun. So yeah, she taught me how to make
gave
dumplings.
You a jacket.
She literally was like, I was like, oh, I love your jacket, it's so beautiful. And she took it off and was like, it's yours. And I was like,
just put it on you.
what? I was like, no, it's too much. And she just like insisted and was like, yes, it's yours. And I was like, I just don't deserve all this kindness. This is so sweet, thank you. An important thing for me to add is that all this footage that we're showing today is just showing my life in Chongqing. So I actually didn't travel outside of Chongqing for the entire first semester that I was living in China. It was after I flew back to the States for Christmas, and then I flew back with one of my best friends, and then my parents met up with us where we actually got to explore the rest of the country. So that's where we're gonna be showing you highlights from Beijing and Shanghai and Hangzhou, Xi'an, all of it. So.
Those will be in the next episode.
But this
big footage.
This was really, this video and the content that we're talking about right now was really what I was actually experiencing for that year. The rest were just kind of cherry on top.
Yeah. Exploration
moments.
That's the hardest part with this video, is just fitting a whole year in one video.
It's so hard.
And all this. It's not like you vlogged the entire thing. It's all iPhone footage. It's all, camera footage here and there, but also just your memory of trying to take it out and put it on the camera. So
exactly.
Yeah.
It's fun to share. It's fun to have as a preservation just from a personal perspective, but I just think it's a cool opportunity. People in China are constantly looking for foreign teachers, and if it's something that you're interested in going to do, I mean, I would so highly recommend doing an experience like that if you have any interest in education or communication or exploring different cultures. It's a really fantastic way to see the world and see a new place.
So I think that is where we're gonna wrap it up today, but we're gonna pass it on to you now. So if you have any questions for Rachel about teaching or life in China, feel free to throw it down in the comment section below or message us on Instagram. We would love to make another video answering your questions about what it is like to teach in China.
There you go. We can't wait to see you next Sunday. And until then, have a great week, and thanks for tuning in as always.